We're going to open with a little bit of Cowboys here for you. A lot going on, but Mike McCarthy did an interview with Tom Pellissero, NFL Network, and it's fresh audio. You know, just a little bit of a teaser of what's to come up. I don't know if this is like a weekend interview they're going to post or something like that. But cut number one, Mike McCarthy, his updated state of the Cowboys as we sit today. Here's Mike.
State of Dallas Cowboys? We're in an excellent space. I really like the way the offseason's gone. Number one, you always go into free agency, try to sign your own back. I think we did a really good job there, and we've added some excellent veterans. So exciting times.
Yes, I would agree. Absolutely, no dispute there. You can hear the teeth sucking is in midseason form, and you can hear more energy. He's got some pop to him, doesn't he?
Yep, fired all my coaches. Yep, got rid of the OC.
He is. Everybody, the heavy breathing's the headliner, but it's the teeth sucking that really steals the show.
I never
You're
really
right about
noticed that.
Okay, what are you looking to see be improved? Here's cut two, Mike.
Definitely efficiency. I mean, and you're always chasing that. I mean, I think we have the same numbers that you do as far as the how we perform, but it's really the efficiency of those numbers and how you're throwing it. I think situationally we've done some real good things, but there's some other areas we could be better in.
So. I think that's good because we talk a lot about how this Cowboys offense is great, and it is, but Dak Prescott's QBR hovers somewhere just below Pro Bowl level consistently, right? So you get all of these great numbers and touchdowns and scoring is there, but I think he believes they can make it more consistent and more reliable, and as a result of that, stand up against better defenses. But that's an interesting idea, and it goes back to what's more important, the total counting numbers, we put up the most yards, we put up the most points, or the numbers like total QBR, which measure the efficiency of a down-by-down basis. And I love that Mike is focused on that and not sort of sitting there with his arms crossed like, what? We put up the most points when Dak's been healthy the last 3 years. What more do you want? That's the appropriate tone to take with this offense, because no matter what some stats say, it hasn't been there at all, if you ask me, when you need it most.
Yeah. But time and time again, you see it in the regular season versus really good teams, and then you've seen it certainly in the postseason. And so we'll see if this works out. Hopefully it's not like full Jason Garrett conservative. Maybe you dial things back in, and find a happy medium between Kellen Moore, Jason Garrett. I don't know, but I'm not necessarily optimistic it's going to work, but I am looking forward to seeing something a little bit different here.
Well, the reason that I have hesitancy is just McCarthy, coach, does stress complementary football, which I think is what he's aiming for here. But his track record as a coordinator is he wants to throw the ball. So I just don't know if once you get into a game and he's actually calling the plays and you get the adrenaline flowing, is he going to stick to basically managing himself and preaching and practicing what he's preaching here? Is he just going to go super pass happy?
Don't you think it'll be real easy when he realizes it's number 4 and not number 12 behind that line? Be a bit easier to keep running that ball, I think, when it's not Aaron Rodgers.
The question,
no disrespect.
The question I wanted to ask you guys is this offensive personnel group who they have, the receivers, the line, the quarterback, is it capable of just being vanilla and winning games? Or
That's a great question.
Is it capable
just
of
beat the man in front of you?
Is it capable of lining up and just saying, okay, this is how we're going to have to play? Or I could say, because if it turns it, and one of the things we've been super critical of the Cowboys is lack of creativity.
Yeah.
Right. And it
they have
sounds
talked
like
about
to me
more pre-snap movement.
Right. But if
I don't think you can line up and be static and win.
It sounds like to me that he is interested in kind of dialing back some things on the offense.
Yeah.
If you're talking about being a run first team, then that means to me that you're trying to say, well, listen, don't have a lot of faith in throwing the football. Got to limit the number of passes, because my receivers can't catch at times. It ain't all on the quarterback.
Okay, so I think CD and Brandon Cooks are good enough, right? Michael Gallup needs to prove it again, and I believe that he will. I think Michael Gallup's going to have a bounce-back year. So you got 3 good receivers, in my opinion, and we'll see what ends up happening in the draft. The question will be, is your offensive line taking that next step? Does Biadasz continue to improve? Does Tyler Smith get better in year 2? Right, what ends up happening on the right tackle? Is it Tyron? Is it Terrence Steele? I believe it's still going to end up being Terrence Steele. on opening day.
So you're saying that you feel like that they, with this current group of players they have, with some add-ons,
right,
that they're good enough to dial it back and just go beat people?
I think I would lean yes, but I also think there's a happy medium here, right? You don't want to be overly conservative, but I think we found out, and it's not that Dak doesn't put up numbers when you ask him to throw the ball 40-plus times a game, but that's not conducive to consistently winning.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they're talking about just totally lining up and trying to man beat man. There's still room for creativity, and I think they still need it because in order to line up man beat man, you got to be able to win with power at the line of scrimmage. And this team is not ready to do that right now.
Well, but it's okay. Yeah, to your point, you're right. But what's the first thing they talk about going into the offseason? Talked about the offensive line.
Yeah.
They didn't talk when we were all screaming to add Hopkins and guys like that. They're looking at this thing going, we need to think about what's going.
It's got to be the biggest thing going into the draft.
They're talking about getting their best 5 on the field is what they're talking about.
We haven't
best
made the
5
offensive
pass
line.
blockers was something that they mentioned as well.
Okay, now let's talk about how different this offense is going to look. This is fresh audio in Mike McCarthy talking with Tom Pellissero, cut 4. What will the new offensive changes look like?
It's not going to be a bunch of major changes. You know, the offense is clearly built around making Dak successful, and the things that we are changing, the things that we are adding, he'll be part of that conversation as we work to that point. As a whole, number one goal for offense is we got to take better care of the football.
Yeah, protect that football, and hopefully they'll be flexible. You know, it doesn't sound like they exactly know what everything is going to look like, but I think they want to try new things with Dak and particularly get the ball out early, get the ball to guys on the move, and see if that works.
The taking care of the football thing is just so funny, though. Like, you're talking about, one, the larger sample size tell you Dak is a guy that does take care of the football, and even despite all of these different, like, some of the interceptions, like the ones in the Niners game, those were definitely some backbreakers. But, I mean, across the board, you're talking about less than 2% of all the plays that you have on offense end up being the turnover stuff. And so, yeah, there are critical moments where you don't want them, but to build an entire offense of just being scared of them, to me, is not something that's going to result when you have a league of guys that are not scared. And they're not worried about throwing the interception because they're also going to throw a bunch of touchdowns.
I think what's happened, though, is that as the offensive line has deteriorated, Kellen Moore's downfield passing scheme has left Dak more susceptible to not seeing those extra defensive backs that are lurking. When he had a clean pocket, even his rookie year, he was going downfield between levels and dropping dimes. As he's gotten older, you've actually seen the benefit of his experience decrease because of how important the protection is and the offensive line is. And if we're going to ask plays to develop downfield that late, Dak's going to keep throwing picks. You got to get the ball out of his hand early to guys more open, close to the line of scrimmage. Guys that have, like, dominated for Dak. Jason Witten, Cole Beasley, Dalton Schultz. All very, very close, right? That's where he's going to thrive, and that's where he's looking to for high percentage looks because you're right. Dak has not historically turned it over. He's been conservative because he knows down there with bad protection, that's the danger zone, right? So I get what you're saying, though. If you're building a passing game out of fear, you probably need a different quarterback.
Right, yeah. If you're that scared of it, my gosh. I mean,
but I think the West Coast has thrived, and I think Mike McCarthy is going to pay great attention to what's working and what's failing and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and there's so many aspects to it. Like, even in, like, you can be scared of the deep ball, but there's some games where you need it. And the Niners game was a game where we're going into the entire week was, hey, you can beat these guys down the field. You can beat these guys down the field. And all game long, it's Kellen Moore asking Dak Prescott to throw the ball between 5 and 10 yards.
They went one time down the field to CeeDee Lamb. What happened?
Yeah,
it was a completion.
It was a really, really good play. And so there are times where, hey, pushing the ball down the field is what you need, and your offensive coordinator, I guess, didn't see that. And so as long as, at least in those moments, McCarthy sees that and say, hey, against this defense, it is pushing the damn ball down the field. Like, at least, like, that's just one thing, but I think those are things that you need.
Okay, a lot going on. Carlos Watkins is signed with the Cardinals. Cowboys wanted to keep him, but they lose him. So we'll see. Does that affect their draft strategy, or do you like Osa so much that you feel like you're good at that spot?
Kind of feel like it doesn't affect him. It would have been nice to get him done, but they'll move on from there, and they'll still be. I could say I think the signing of Hankins might take you out of that one at 26.
Okay.
Everybody had that one kind of maybe as a possibility, but I think it takes it out of it.
Terrell Basham is going to the Bengals. That's a name, not necessarily a key guy to their pass rush.